The many threats of a new, emerging and globalized world will have to be factored into NATO's new strategic concept.
Well, we clearly have to understand that threats are much more diverse than they were when we wrote this treaty in 1949. They come from a wide variety of different places, and we need to have institutions and processes that allow us to deal with those.
It's a new area, defining the new threats. What do we accept as new threats? Where we see what are the relevant threats?
Although a multitude of new types of threats exist, this does not necessarily mean they are all for NATO to deal with.
I sense there is very little desire and appetite for offering a great laundry list of possible forms of attacks. I think the Allies will just simply leave it at an attack on one is an attack on all.
The strategic concept must not be a shopping list. It doesn't make sense just to pile up all ideas and requirements all have, since the funding is not there.
But there are now clear examples of new threats that can have the effect of an armed attack, but without the use of conventional arms.
If computers are used to deny or to wreak havoc with energy infrastructure, which has real impact on lives of patients in hospital, in that case computers become a weapon as well. It is an armed attack. It's an armed attack by other means.
Take energy security, for example. How could NATO look into such a complex area of providing security, and should it even consider doing so?
If you look at the map, many countries which are basically adjacent or very close to NATO countries are probably the fossil fuel exporters. The provider of energy likes to make money, and the consumer of the energy, they like to have the energy for their country. What I think then the best is to think in a systematic way what kind of security aspects are there.
The question is, of course, whether NATO should act on a collective basis in case of energy deprivation, or whether that's perhaps a responsibility of the European Union or other institutions to act.
Even with the best of will, this question of energy efficiency, energy security, energy demand, supply, and everything else transit through the countries of not very easy political regimes. All of this is enormously difficult questions. But both Russians and the European Union are ready to tackle that.
The same question could be asked about climate change.
The danger is that everything is climate change in this world. I think it is much more for the expert group to think, if there is climate change, are there coming security aspects out of it? And not very much so security aspects which we can link back to the kind of mission we see for NATO.
Cyber attacks have already been witnessed in Estonia amongst other countries. How much should NATO focus on this in its new strategic concept?
It has to have a fair share, as it has in a number of strategic concepts adopted so far in different countries. But clearly, cyber threats cannot be addressed solely from the defense point of view. There must be a broad, comprehensive approach. The most important thing is awareness and defensive measures by all participants, including regular civil users, not to turn their computers into cyber warriors.
So what should NATO's overall approach be to the new and emerging threats?
Because NATO finds it difficult to act against threats that don't come with clear and deliberate return address, we'll effectively do one of two things. Either we decide in the future that there's simply no good way to retaliate because there is no particular actor we can, in any meaningful sense, hold responsible for the attack, or we decide to go after the state, the society, the system that has protected and sheltered those who have attacked NATO ally. That's effectively what we've done in Afghanistan.